Come, let us explore the meditation classic radical creativity and then meditate like a Jedi. Whoops. There we go. This is the third of 6 passages of radical creativity, composed many centuries ago by the great Buddhist reformer Prahevajra, known in Tibetan as Garab Dorje. So let's read the full passage, then I'll explain it. There is no ambition in effortless, fully potent creativity, and such free-form, spontaneous perfection is always the same. In the Dharma Dhatu, pure field of reality, where the conception and the act are one, however misguided, how can we innocents do any wrong? There is a lot of stuff here. So to explain this, I need to give some background. Archaeologists and anthropologists agree that 300,000 years ago, our Paleolithic ancestors had cultures that were primarily flexible, loving, rational, laid-back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Fabulous. However, about 10,000 years ago, the rise of proto-capitalism during the Neolithic advent changed human culture, actually reversed human culture. And so for the last 10 millennia, it has been promoting a culture that makes us rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. This mindset, this rigid, controlling ethos has affected every area of our lives. The romantic, the platonic, the recreational, the vocational, the secular, and the spiritual. And so we see a lot of these attributes all over human civilization. This is why Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including humans, including meditation teachers. So the majority of so-called spiritual teachers are super rigid and super controlling. And they bring that into their personal spiritual path and into the way they teach the spiritual path to others. Based on that, let's return now to this evening's teaching text. Oh yes, I am the mayor of mucus right now. There is no ambition and effortless, fully potent creativity. What does that mean? We don't have to psych ourselves up we don't have to force ourselves to give a flying fuck about others. We are already wired to do that. We don't have to psych ourselves up to care about peace and joy and love and wisdom. We are already wired to do that. I'd like to share a diagram with you. When those who are rigid and controlling actively focus and actively analyze, it exhausts, it overworks our dorsolateral and medial prefrontal cortex, causing us to be present with symptoms of depression, as well as trigger our amygdala, the seat of both anxiety and aggression. That's a big fat bummer. And here's the cool thing. We have a spinal cord whose fancy name is autonomic nervous system. And when we stop competing against it and we begin to passively and vulnerably cooperate with it, amazing things happen. Our amygdala is calmed, and our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the seat of empathy, is gently stimulated. This autonomic nervous system has two facets. Every time we inhale, we are wired to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, whose fancy name is the sympathetic nervous system. It is evolved to help us to notice in a very special way, to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice mind's antics of perception, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, cognitions, recollections, and imaginings. So we are wired to vulnerably and passively experience all that randomly passes through our sphere of awareness, be it external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. The most efficient way to do that is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this each time we feel our chest swell with breath. The question remains, what do we do with all that stuff that we noticed? This brings us to the second half of our autonomic nervous system. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are already wired to automatically access the very bottom and the very top of that same spinal cord. These two extremes are known as the parasympathetic nervous system. They have evolved to help us to relax to such a degree that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand. Simply by cooperating with our own autonomic nervous system not only do we calm the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala, we experience enhanced love and peace. And this is all free. We don't have to buy a book. We don't have to take a course. We don't need someone's blessings or someone's permission or learn a secret handshake or learn a passcode or a mantra. All we need to do is cooperate with our own autonomic nervous system. Now, some people get antsy and uncomfortable and they say, dude, it sounds like you're telling me not to use the front part of your brain. And I'm going to tell you this. I want you to use the front part of your brain, sustainably. How do we do that? Simple. The more we cooperate with our autonomic nervous system through mindfulness and meditation, the more our choices and utterances and deeds will flow from love's centered spontaneity. Going with the flow, practicing the effortless effort of Wu Wei ensures that we will use our brain with optimal efficiency. For instance, you could buy a really expensive Waterford crystal champagne flute and use it to pound a nail once. It'll do a bad job and it'll shatter. Or you can buy a $10 hammer and use that to pound nails. Which is more efficient? The hammer. So rather than abusing the front of our brain to argue with our emotions, let's use our autonomic nervous system to notice and release our emotions and reserve the use of the prefrontal cortex for the creativity and problem solving for which it has evolved. To paraphrase Commander Montgomery Scott, "Aye, laddie, the right tool for the right job." Let's go back to this evening's teaching text. Oops. Okay, let's try button 7. There is no ambition and effortless, fully potent creativity. So instead of saying, well, I should do this, I should do that, I should do this, we're going to flow from centered spontaneity. That is the byproduct of mindfulness and meditation. And as such, free-form spontaneous perfection is always the same. So perfection here doesn't mean we never make a boo-boo. Perfection here means processing our perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings in a way that helps us to be the peaceful, loving, joyful, wise people that our dogs already think we are. In the Dharma Dhatu, or pure field of reality, where the conception and the act are one, however misguided, how can we innocents do anything wrong? So Dharma Dhatu, or pure field, is just a fancy way of saying awareness and release. There is the metaphor of the 3 bodies of a Buddha, the Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya, wherein we practice the Mahamudra, or the union of awareness and emptiness, bliss and emptiness, and love and emptiness. Gautama Dhatu is a metaphor of our practice of awareness and letting go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever thought or action we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if they were melting into the simplicity of just energy. That is until we take our next inhalation and the whole process begins anew. However misguided, how can we, in essence, do any wrong? You and me might not be Encyclopedia Brown. We might not have an eidetic memory and perfect comprehension. We might not have read every single book on the planet. But through the simple act of cooperating with our own autonomic nervous system, our choices and utterances and deeds can flow from the centered spontaneity that helps us to intend the loving thing, communicate lovingly, conduct ourselves lovingly, and practice commerce lovingly. We might not always know what the best thing to do is, when to do it or how to do it, but as long as we practice mindfulness and meditation, we will inadvertently grow in wisdom, in love's wisdom. A loving wisdom helps us to do the right thing. So as a little kid, first day of summer, me and my little sister would go outside in the backyard in our bathing suits. We didn't have a pool, we didn't have a well, but we had a hose that connected to a spigot on the side of the house. We could think of the centered spontaneity that is the byproduct of mindfulness and meditation as our hose and spigot of wisdom. Some people are scared of bad karma, and they're scared that if they make a mistake, they will take an inauspicious rebirth and go to hell, or if there is no, or at least bad things will happen in this life. There is no, even if there is such a thing as karma, the ultimate purification is not a ritual, it's not an offering, it's not a recitation, it's simply awareness and release. As we sit in meditation, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly, at times different actions or utterances or deeds will come to mind. We might feel rather pleased with ourselves. We might feel very bad about what we did or the effect that upon others of what we did. That's natural. That's our autonomic nervous system cooperating with various regions of our brain to function as our inner teacher. There is no need to apologize. There is no need to justify, randomize, minimize, or fatalize what we've done. All we need to do is be vulnerable to whatever comes up as we breathe in and relax as best we can as we breathe out. And we will grow. We will evolve. So, having explained this passage, before closing this opening explanation, I would like to read it one final time. There is no ambition in effortless, fully potent creativity. And as such, free-form spontaneous perfection is always the same. In the Dharma Dhatu, or pure field of reality, where the conception and the act are one, however misguided, how can we innocents do any wrong? Many years ago, I remember having a conversation with someone who fancied themselves a long-term meditator. They said the more that they meditate, the more innocent they become. The less of agenda they have, the more they're able to flow from the present moment. And that is my wish for you. Having completed our opening lesson, come let us now shift gears. It is General Leia Organa's Saturday evening. At least it is here in my little corner of the globe. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi after about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Come, let's see here. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. And now, let us sit and breathe and notice the antics of mind and relax into their empty nature. Pardon me. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever painful or pleasurable memories we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if they were melting into the simplicity of just mnemonic energy. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return for tomorrow's first exploration of the meditation classic Radical Creativity, as well as Meditate Like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.